In this lesson that we're going to talk about simple interest, there's some terms that we're going to discuss. Interest is the amount earned or paid for the use of money. If you earn interest, that's when you put money in a bank or a credit union, and it earns money while sitting in there. Interest paid, for example, if you bought a car or a boat or a home and you needed to borrow the money, you have to pay the bank for borrowing that money, bank or credit union. The principal is the amount of money deposited or borrowed. That's the amount of money that you actually put into your savings account, or the actual amount that you borrowed for the car, for the home, or for the boat. Simple interest is what we're going to be discussing. Interest that is earned on the money put in the bank, or interest that is paid only to the principal. Annual interest, the percent of the principal earned paid per year. So a key in simple interest is it is determined on a yearly calendar, 1 year. And we'll give some examples in a minute. In the formula that I want you to remember, I call it IPERT. I equals P R T. I is going to stand for the interest that you will either pay or that you will earn. P will be the principal amount that you either deposit or borrow. R will be the rate that you're borrowing or being paid to have the money in there. And T is going to be the time. Again, for simple interest, it is based on a calendar year. So in our first example, people buy bonds as a way to earn money. If a $1,500 bond earns 4% simple interest per year on its purchase price, how much will it earn in interest after 2 years? So we'll begin with the formula that we use dealing with simple interest. The question is this, asking how much interest. So we don't know what the I is going to be. But our P, which is the principal amount, is how much money that we're purchasing, or using, I should say, the $1,500 bond. The interest rate, the R, is 4%. So I'm going to change that, go ahead and put that into a decimal. And it's asking how much will it earn after 2 years. So 2 would go for the time period. Now again, because of the commutative property of multiplication, we can pick any two to multiply together first. So I'm going to do 1,500 times 2, which is 3,000. Then take that and multiply it times 400. When an account earns interest, the interest is added to the money in the account. The balance A of an account that earns simple annual interest is the sum of the principal and the interest, which you get with the PRT. So in example 2, you deposit $3,000 into a savings account that earns simple interest at an annual rate of 4.5%. What is the balance that you will have in your account after 3 years? Okay, again, we're going to use our formula to determine how much interest that we are going to make. Then we're going to take that interest and we're going to add it to our principal amount. So we need to determine what the interest is. Our principal amount is $3,000. Our rate is 4.5, so we'll go ahead and put that in a decimal. Then it's asking for after 3 years. Commutative property, 3,000 times 3 would be 9,000 times the interest rate, So once you multiply 9,000 times 4,500, you're going to get $405. Now, that's how much interest that you'll earn. But the question that is being asked is, what is the balance you will have in your account after 3 years? So you're going to take your $3,000, add the interest that it accrued, and your balance, or the A in your account, is $3,405. Now, in example 3, we're going to find an interest rate. Summer job. You get a summer job at a bakery. Suppose you save $1,400 of your pay and deposit it into an account that earns simple interest. After 9 months, the balance is $1,421. Find the interest rate. Now, we can determine what the interest that was made by taking the $1,400, subtracting the, excuse me, so your interest that you made is $21, and you can determine that because you put $1,400 in there and your balance was $1,421 at the end of the time period. Principal was $1,400. The rate is what we're trying to determine, so I'm going to put R here. And then 9 months. 9 months would be 9 out of 12, because we're dealing with a calendar year. You reduce that to 3 over 4. So we would use 3/4. You can take $1,400, multiply it times 3 over 4, or you can take $1,400 and multiply it times 75%. Either one of those will give you $1,050. Now we're going to, again, using the inverse operations, we're going to divide each side by 1,050. So we now know that it was at 200th, but it's wanting to know the actual percentage of that. So that would be at 2%. So if you put $1,400 in the account, after 9 months, it earns $21. What interest rate did they pay you to keep the money in there for those 9 months? And it was 2%. Okay, now our last example, I'm going to pause the video and let you see what the answers were for an account that earns simple annual interest. You need to find the interest and the balance of the account. So for these last 2 examples, you need to determine how much the interest was that was earned with the formula that we have, and then add that amount to the principal. So for each account, we had to determine what our interest would be. The first one was the principal was $500 at 7% for 4 years. So our actual interest was, after we multiplied those, was $140. We took that interest, added it to the principal of $500, and we had a total of $640. Now your textbook will ask for A, which is the account balance, but either one, just so long as you understand what the question is that they're asking for. In the second one, principal is $2,500 at an annual percentage of 3% of 9 months. That was $2,500 times 300 times 3/4, because we're dealing with the year. So that's going to be 9 over 12 simplified to 3/4. Then we just did the order of operations here, and we went from left to right when we were multiplying. 2,500 times 300 is 75. 75 times 3/4 will be equal to 56.25. We took that, added it to our principal, and had a final amount in our bank account of $2,556.25. May I encourage you on these lessons or on these homework problems or assigned problems to please read the question so that the work that you put into it, you will be rewarded with getting the points or the credit for.